An instant classic in Las Vegas as number 17 Tennessee pulls out a win by a score of 76-73 over number 3 Houston in the Players Era tournament. A true statement win from Tennessee, a true marquee win for the Vols to maybe help boost them into this final part of the non-conference slate. But many quick takeaways to talk about. My name is Rick Butler. Joined with me, as always, Ryan Schumpert, live from Sin City himself. Got to witness, again, that instant classic in person. Ryan, what's standing out to you about this game as you sort of wrap things up that just happened a little while ago?
Yeah, there's a number of different ways you could go with it. I think the thing that maybe stands out most to me is, and I asked Rick Barnes about it after the game. He said, they walked off the floor last year against Houston after the season ended, and just felt like they had to get way better inside. They had to get more offensive presence in the paint to be better as a rebounding team, and that was. We'd seen them be better there early this season, but you knew Houston. You pointed to this game as the game they were going to really be tested. And Tennessee rebounding as a whole basically dead even. Tennessee's offensive rebound rate a little bit better than Houston's in this game. They outscored Houston points in the paint, and you saw the depth. And that's been what we've really complimented it. And Jalen Carey, who's been really inconsistent for Tennessee this season, was probably the best of that bunch. But Felix Okpara gave Tennessee really good minutes. JP Estrella gave Tennessee really good minutes. Cade Phillips had some nice plays. That group was up to the challenge against a stout Houston front court and a really physical Houston team.
Man, you talk about Jalen Carey. Let me pull up the stats real quick. Had 13 points on the day, had 7 total rebounds, 4 of them offensive rebounds. So actually pulled down more offensive boards than he did defensive boards. A play that sticks out to me, and I can't even remember if it was his best, but it was certainly the most jaw-dropping, is when he was down there on the baseline. He looked like he was trapped by a double team, had
Yeah,
absolutely nowhere to go. It looked like a turnover was imminent. Somehow slips through 2 defenders, gets to the basket. For a guy that big to be slipping through 2 defenders like that doesn't happen. So again, I don't know if that was his best play of the game, but certainly most memorable. Ryan, I want to go to your point a second ago that you talked about what Rick Barnes said after the Houston game last year, and credit to our old friend Reed Carringer for this stat, an Art Rocky Top Insider alumni. The Elite Eight last spring, going back to that game that happened in Indianapolis, points in the paint. Houston had 30, Tennessee had 14. You mentioned it. That was a big thing that Tennessee addressed in the offseason. Tonight's game, Houston with 30 points in the paint, the same exact number, except Tennessee had 38. You could really tell that Tennessee's big men came out to play. And not only did they make plays, but they made timely plays as well. And that's a Houston team with a good front court themselves, good and capable big men themselves. But man, you could see that Tennessee was just a different animal in that respective right compared to at times what it was last year, and especially against that in the game against the Cougars last year in Indianapolis.
yeah, no doubt. And that quartet for Tennessee in the front court had, if my math correct, 32 points on 13 of 21 shooting from the field. So they gave Tennessee a lot of juice offensively. They were really efficient doing it. You mentioned, I would agree with you, maybe Carey's most impressive play is most impactful. They're late. Felix Okpara shooting a free throw. I think Tennessee's up by
That's
2.
right.
He made the first one and missed the
Yeah.
second one, and Carey gets to tip in. So that felt like a huge play. It got the game to 2 scores, and they both teams kind of traded scores from there out. So it felt like that was a huge difference maker and kind of changed the way the final minute, 90 seconds of the game were going to be played.
Ryan, we'll talk about the guards here in a minute because obviously Jacoby Gillespie, seems to be so much of what this team wants to do, especially offensively. But, to you, is this sort of what Tennessee's identity can be moving forward? Is this sort of maybe what can separate them from teams down the road, especially once they continue to gel? But just the fact that a lot of people have been talking about it. Tennessee's front court, it is deep, it is wide. There's a lot of different versatility, whether you're talking about Jalen Carey, a big guy who can really muck things up down low in the paint. And then Felix Okpara's, sort of emergence. You have JP Estrella's finesse with what he can do with the right-handed turnaround in the paint. Is this sort of what you see as Tennessee's identity, despite having great guard play and a guy like Jacoby Gillespie as well?
Yeah, I don't know if I would go as far as identity, but certainly a big part of the puzzle of why this Tennessee team can be really good. Why I felt really good about them coming into the year. Like there's not a surefire all SEC candidate in that group, let alone all American. But strength in numbers, they're just really good, and you can see different guys emerge on different nights. And I mean, Carey's the best example of that today. He'd probably been the fourth best of that group this season. But we know he's capable of big games. He did it last year at Vanderbilt, and he showed it tonight. So, what the identity of this team will be. Obviously, I think offensively, it's still going to be Gillespie and Nate Mint will be the biggest pieces. But you feel better on nights like this where Nate Mint goes 1 of 8 from the field and struggles offensively. You feel better about Tennessee having somebody they can turn to, maybe a little bit more consistent than they have in years past when perimeter shots haven't been falling.
Jacoby Gillespie had 22 points on the game. He leads all volunteers in the contest, 3 of 9 from three-point range, 5 of 16 from the floor. But what might stand out the most is a perfect 9 of 9 from the free throw line. That was huge for Tennessee. Also added in 2 rebounds and 4 assists. I love the way he plays and that it doesn't ever seem like things are rushed. And that's what you get from a transfer portal veteran guard like himself. But he just seems so smooth and capable of running that offense. Nothing is ever going too fast. He finds his shots. It might not always be going all the time. Certainly, yesterday versus Rutgers, we saw what it looks like when it does sort of ramp up to that next level. But even in a game like tonight, where it might not have been as efficient as the Rutgers game, it is still so impressive to see what he can do with the ball and obviously lead that Tennessee offense, figure out ways to get them on the plus side of things.
Yeah, and Tennessee will consistently ask him to do a lot, but tonight with Nate Mint struggling and some of the foul trouble, it felt like they asked Jacoby to do just a ton on the offensive end, and he wasn't overly efficient. I think just 5 of 16 shooting, but still solid. Hit some timely shots. Did a good job running the offense. I think that's the thing that stood out the most to me about his game. We've talked so much about Tennessee's turnover issues early this season. Houston, a really, really good team when it comes to perimeter ball pressure and forcing turnovers. First game all season, Tennessee had single-digit turnovers with 9, and Jacoby Gillespie, incredibly impressive, did not turn the ball over once. With all of what I just said, it felt like his usage, he handled the ball a ton. Later in the game, they went to him more off-ball, coming off some pin downs, but Tennessee asked him to do a ton, and he did a great job taking care of the basketball.
In a game like this that was back and forth, Houston had a lead for a good chunk of time. Tennessee winds it down. The Cougars had an 11-point lead in the first half. Tennessee able to wind it down, especially use their defense to get things going in the second half. I think the plus minus is a fascinating statistic in games like this because it tells you a little bit of the tail of the tape. Certainly not everything, but I think it tells you a decent bit. You look at Tennessee's plus minus, it's Bishop Boswell leading the way at plus 12. He made so many impactful plays in this game. The hustle plays on defense, the hustle plays in transition. There were a couple moments where he had his guy absolutely locked down. But then maybe a very welcome surprise for this Tennessee basketball team is he was able to make a few key, timely offensive plays as well. What were your overall thoughts of Bishop Boswell and what really seemed like a welcoming party, like a coming out party, and I believe a career high scoring day as well as he finished the game with 10 points on 4 of 4 shooting from the floor.
Yeah, no, it's a travesty that we got, I guess, a little bit under 8 minutes.
8 minutes.
Talking about Bishop because, I mentioned the front court stuff being maybe the number one thing. That's probably 1A to Bishop being 1B. He was just so good and started defensively. I thought this was going to be a huge question for Tennessee in their perimeter defense, facing a team that had 3 good guards. And for much of the first half, they really blitzed Tennessee. And, Jacoby Gillespie didn't look great all the time defensively, that is, and nor did Ethan Berg, I think, really struggled defensively throughout the game, and Amari Abram a little bit inconsistent. But Bishop was the constant. Gillespie and Abram were both good defensively in the second half. But yeah, I mean, Bishop was just so stellar for what he did on the defensive end in the first half. Tennessee's half court offense struggled. He did a ton. It felt like to get some stuff going in transition, turn defense into offense, and two huge free throws late there before Jacoby Gillespie finished things off, icing it. So Bishop was just stellar, and it's early in the season still, but to me it feels like he's running away with that lead minute guy at the 2 guard spot.
Yeah, and even with Amari Abram, I thought who put up some good minutes as well. He really has impressed me on the defensive side of the court as well. We know that he can step back and hit a 3. We saw that about a week ago or so in Knoxville. But Bishop Boswell, I think, just can't say enough good things about not only what he did tonight against Houston, but also put together a nice game against Rutgers yesterday as well. Excited to see sort of what this growth means for him. Ryan, I feel like a TV analyst right now who's back in the studio interviewing the man on the ground, the man in the arena, if you will. This one certainly felt like a March Madness type game. I mean, that's That's what it was when you have two high-level teams going back and forth like that. We know the history between Rick Barnes and Kelvin Sampson, but this one was a big one for Tennessee. Obviously, not just a statement win against Houston, but there was. I don't want to say there was a lot of talk about it because there wasn't, but there was at least, one prominent voice who was talking about the beginning of Tennessee's schedule early on. 5 bye games. We say BUY because they're not too competitive. You didn't entirely know maybe what Tennessee was going to show up and look like against a marquee team such as this. I think you and I maybe had a good impression, but some around the country might not have. Tennessee stepped into the plate tonight. They might have taken, the pitcher to a few extra throws. They might have made it a little bit longer and a little bit more exciting, but certainly stepped up to the plate and stepped up to the challenge and hit one into the outfield tonight.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think I give Tennessee a ton of credit for just hanging in there in the first half. You said it, were down by as many as 11 at one point. It felt like Houston came out really fast offensively. I think made 4 of their first 6 threes. Tennessee, I don't know if I'd say sluggish, but just didn't hit the ground running. So huge credit to Tennessee for just hanging in there. They got it to 4 points at halftime, which gave them a chance to make a run in the second half. And then I guess that's maybe the last thing we didn't mention, that 7-minute scoring drought for Houston when Tennessee went from down 5 to up 5. That felt like that was really when the game flipped.
As we record this, it's a little past 10 o'clock p.m. here in Eastern time. I don't know what you're obviously a couple hours back being over there in Las Vegas. We don't know what Tennessee's Wednesday schedule is going to look like right now. Maybe by the time that you're listening this, if you're listening on Wednesday, maybe that information is out right now. But Tennessee will return to the court tomorrow, we assume, for another game there in the Players Era Tournament. Should be a good one.
Definitely tomorrow. And heck, by the time this is posted, it might be decided. But if Gonzaga wins, I believe by 13 or more here against Maryland, then Tennessee will play Kansas in the third place game. If it is a Gonzaga win by 13 or less, or a Maryland win, which I don't think is going to be the case, then it will be Tennessee versus Michigan in the championship game. So it'll be, I think those games respectively are at I'm not even going to guess. I was going to say the championship game is the latter one, and that's at night. And then I think the third place game's in the evening, but I don't have it off the top of my head.
Hey, I don't know if you saw this. I don't even know if they showed it on TV. If they did, I might have missed it. But Carmelo Anthony sticking around in the crowd to watch Tennessee Houston. He got to see some high-level basketball. Obviously, a guy that is plenty familiar with high-level basketball himself. But, man, I think the exciting thing now is just to see what Tennessee can do at this as they wrap up this non-conference slate here for the rest of the month. Still some challenging games on the radar as well. You know it certainly better than I off the top of my head. But I know Tennessee plays Louisville, Illinois, maybe some others as well in that stretch as well. So should be an exciting one, and it'll be fascinating to see what Tennessee can do to use this to boost. But no doubt about it, an instant classic, a marquee win, and certainly what felt like a game in March that was played in November over in Sin City.
Yeah, no doubt. It was a high level game today, and should be again tomorrow. Especially if it's Michigan, I think that'd be a tremendous challenge, but should be a good game either way.
Pounding Stephen Pearl's Auburn Tigers right now. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
At least while we record this, I don't suspect a comeback is happening, but the game is ongoing as we are recording this. So,
yeah, it would have to be quite the comeback.
Yeah, it'd be a bigger talking point than the game that we're talking about right now. So that right there is Ryan Schumpert. He is in Las Vegas, and he will be tomorrow as well for whatever game that Tennessee ends up in, whether it be the championship game or the third place game, whatever it might be. He will have you covered on the ground. I have no idea what arena that is. Maybe the MGM Grand Arena. Is that correct?
MGM Grand Garden Arena.
Garden Arena. Another garden to play basketball in.
Yeah.
Okay, this one, though, over on the west part of the country. That is Ryan Schumpert. You can follow him at rshump00. He's got the boots on the ground coverage from Las Vegas at the Players Era Tournament. You can follow him to stay up to date with everything happening on Wednesday. And, of course, stay tuned to Rocky Top Insider. Maybe the time is out and you're watching it before. Maybe the time is out and you're watching it after. But head over to RockyTopInsider.com to find out all the latest Tennessee basketball news, notes, and coverage. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and scroll around the RTI YouTube account for a little while. You'll find post-game interviews with Rick Barnes, Jacoby Gillespie, Bishop Boswell, Felix Okpara, and Jalen Carey reacting to this win over Houston tonight in Vegas. Number 17 17, Tennessee picks up a 76-73 victory over number 3 Houston. Gets revenge after last season's Elite 8 loss in Indianapolis to springboard them into the final game at least, of their slate in the Players Era Tournament. That's Ryan Schumpert. I'm Rick Butler. Thanks for watching the RTI Reaction Show.